New South Wales Labor has said that pill testing should not be off the table. But the WA state government has once again ruled it out. Now, back in 2016, the consensus of the alcohol and drug experts at the Parliamentary Drug Summit in Canberra was that a trial of drug checking at music festivals should proceed as a matter of priority. But as you would have heard over the last few days, politicians across the country and here in WA are concerned that it sends the wrong message to consumers. So I'm keen to hear where you stand on this. Give us a call, 1300 222 720.
On ABC Radio Perth and WA.
It is 26 minutes to 9. Now, music festivals on the East Coast have seen 3 young people die in as many months. And while the initial headlines are scarce on detail, in the ensuing days we see emotional tributes from friends and family shared on social media. And each death tragic beyond belief and preventable. Recently, the Falls Festival in Victoria sent a text to alert festival goers of dangerous orange pills in circulation with the alarming warning, one pill can kill. Yet the rhetoric from politicians is, the general advice is to, quote, just say no. While pill testing has been successfully trialled, the timeline for its introduction in WA is unclear. Joining me is Dr. Stephen Bright, who is a researcher with Edith Cowan University. Good morning, Dr. Bright.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
What are the drugs causing most grief right now?
So what most people would refer to them is ecstasy, which is the slang term for a pill or a capsule containing MDMA. MDMA itself is not a particularly harmful drug if used in the right context, in the right dose. But the problem is, in the last few years, we've seen a proliferation of hundreds of new drugs to circumvent the law, and these are being placed into ecstasy tablets in Australia, making Australia's ecstasy some of the most dangerous in the world.
Right. Origin Festival was on last night and the night before. They had sniffer dogs, drug bins, and there was also a threat to prosecute anyone bringing drugs to the festival. How effective is that, do you think?
Well, I think it's a step in the right direction. In New South Wales, they've really got this tough-on-drugs approach at the moment with the sniffer dogs, and so you're not even allowed into the festival if the sniffer dog identifies you as positive and you're not found to be carrying anything. One of the concerns with sniffer dogs is that they cost a lot of money. It's about $3,000 an hour to operate, and 75% of the time they give a false positive. They get it wrong, and often they just catch people carrying a small quantity of drugs. And people panic, like Gemma Toms, of course, tragically died at the big day out when she saw a sniffer dog and took the pills that she was carrying for both her and her friends. At least with what they've done here in WA, it is a step forward because it gives people sort of a triage as they move through to the festival. So they know the sniffer dogs are going to be there. They can test their drugs at home before they come into the festival with reagent test kits, which are legally available. And they can then figure out what they're going to do as they move through the gates in terms of if they have brought drugs for their friends, you know, everybody takes what they're going to have and they have it before they go into the festival. And so then the focus in the festival is on the dealing rather than the personal use. Because one of my criticisms of law enforcement at the moment is most of it just focuses on the low-hanging fruit, the personal consumption. We see all of these stories throughout last year of these massive drug hauls, yet none of them have changed the availability of drugs or the price of drugs.
Interesting. I did hear you say there that it cost $3,000 an hour to operate the drug dogs. I didn't know that's how much they got paid, Stephen. That's a lot of money to operate them, though. I'm asking for people's thoughts, 0437 922 720. This from another Christine. I don't take pills, but no one will stop someone who wants to take one. Yes to pill testing. The message pill testing at festivals sends is, quote, we care about you. Old people willing to help young people will help to bridge the gap, is what she says. Now, Dr. Bright, you took part in a covert drug testing trial in Victoria. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, so I was at a festival with about 20,000 people, along with another group of academics that we call ourselves drug nerds. And, you know, we were doing a bit of research there, and with about every 20 minutes we'd get offered to buy some drugs. And so we had the reagent testing equipment with us, which is quite legal. And so we just asked the people, look, So we just test it first and, maybe come back later. And within 24 hours, we identified a deadly drug called PMA. We went to the emergency controller of the festival, who was ex-law enforcement. He said, we don't want people to die here. You don't want people to die here. Just set it up. I know it's illegal, but just set it up. And so my role in that was just to help coordinate with some of the volunteer services that were there, some of the concerned citizens, in how they can do this and help them interpret the results when they weren't sure sort of what was showing up. What we did find was a large batch of drugs coming through containing this particularly nasty chemical that had led to several deaths in Chapel Street only weeks earlier. And most people that we gave this information to just chucked their pills straight in the bin there and then.
Right.
So, I can't say that, we saved lives, but we certainly saved a lot of people from getting sick and pressures on paramedical services.
It's 20 minutes to 9 on ABC Perth and WA. My guest is Dr. Stephen Bright, who is a researcher with Edith Cowan University, and we are talking about pill testing this morning. The state government has once again ruled out bringing it in, but New South Wales Labor have said that it shouldn't be off the table. Some interesting texts, which I'll get to very soon, 0437 922 720. Stephen, are young people receptive to having their pills tested? What was the participation rate?
Well, the participation rate at that festival, there were 20,000 people and 800 were checked, and it was only word of mouth. We weren't allowed to sort of tell anybody this was going on with any signage or anything else. It was a covert operation. At Grooving the Moon, where it was a sanctioned trial, people did uptake and use the service, and they identified there again a number of nasty drugs that people disposed of, or they simply changed the way that they were going to use drugs based on education, for giving them information about what some of the harms might be about the drugs that they are taking and how they can mitigate those harms if they're not already engaged in those strategies. I think one thing that's important to consider in WA is that having been in Victoria and moved back to WA and having been out to the WA festivals and interviewed people, the WA punters are different to people in the eastern states. I'm not sure how receptive people in WA would be to pill testing.
Why is that?
Well, I think because it's smaller, people are really paranoid. So they're paranoid that if they get their pills tested, they're going to be arrested, the festival organisers themselves are concerned that it could create negative publicity by saying, they're going to do pill testing at their festival. And I think they've got a valid reason for that because, they've seen what's happening in New South Wales and they don't want to see WA go down that same path. So I think what we need to do in WA, I'm absolutely supportive of pill testing. Evidence shows that it decreases drug use, it reduces medical emergencies. But what we need to do first in WA before jumping the gun is engaging with the consumers, engaging with festival goers and engaging with the festival organisers to understand how we can do it in a way that's actually going to work in WA.
How does the pill testing itself work and how accurate is it?
So compared to the reagent test kits, which are legally available, and Students for Sensible Drug Policy, some of their universities are actually giving these out to students at the moment. ECU's recently established the Students for Sensible Drug Policy chapter. They can identify if there's something nasty in it, but it can't identify everything. It can give you an idea. The testing that's being done, that was done at Grooving the Moon, takes about 15 to 20 minutes. It can identify pretty much every compound and it can tell them how much is in the pill as well. So they can put up a sign saying these particular pills contain 250 milligrams of MDMA. If you take 2 of them, you might overdose, maybe just take a half. So they're very sophisticated and they can operate in a short time. And during that time while the pill's being tested, that's an opportunistic moment to talk to the young person about their drug use. If they've taken MDMA before, what do they know about ecstasy? Are they going to be dancing? How much water should they drink? Because if they don't drink enough, they might dehydrate. And if they drink too much, they could go into a medical condition called hyponatremia, which has caused a few deaths overseas.
So given that we're unlikely to see pill testing backed in WA in the short term at least, what alternatives exist?
Well, the alternative at the moment is really reagent pill testing. And so people can access reagent pill testing online. Unfortunately, the main provider of it, and I know it's ABC, so I don't want to give out names of providers, but they often just say this is the test for MDMA or this is the test for ketamine. It's a bit more complicated than that. It's helpful to do a little bit of research, and parents can do this. Parents can go onto Google, look up reagent testing, find out a little bit of information and talk to their kids about testing their drugs before they take them. It isn't, it's rudimentary at best, but it's far better to have some idea of what you're taking rather than blindly swallowing a pill.
Really interesting to speak to you this morning, Stephen. Appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Dr. Stephen Bright, he's a researcher from Edith Cowan University, and we're talking about the merits of pill testing this morning. Very keen to get your view, 0437 922 720, or you're welcome to give me a call on 1300 222 720. Ray joins me. What's your stance on this, Ray?
Well, I think the first priority has to be harm minimisation. That's got to be the first priority. So whatever works is got to be the first priority. I'm a non-drinker, but one thing about alcohol, you know exactly the percentage of alcohol in what you're drinking, and that's got to be a very, very good thing, because if people don't know what they're taking, it's going to kill people, it's going to damage people's organs, internal organs, and ultimately lead to ill health, and that's got to be the number one priority. Now, apparently, they've in Portugal they've brought out some model, it's called the Lisbon model or something like that, where they've done something to do with minimising the effect of drugs. Frankly, I wish no drug was around except a medical drug, and even some of them are not that good. And some people have been on medical drugs for years and they've got off them and found out they're actually in better health. So drugs are, by definition, they're toxic things, and we really need to think twice before we take any drug. But same time, whatever you can do to minimise the damage to people, because how would I or you or anybody like to have a family member die because of these things? And it's
absolutely
such a big issue. I don't have all the answers. Apparently the Lisbon model basically is based upon the idea that the amount of people going to jail and all these things for these offences, it's costing so much money. And if the same money was put into prevention methods, you might get a better outcome. Now, I haven't got all the answers. I'm just throwing around a few thoughts. I'm not saying I know what's the best to do, but it's such a complicated issue. And
it is indeed. It's really good to speak to you this morning, Ray. Thank you for your call. 1300 222 720. Ray, in favour of pill testing. Susan on the text line says the same thing. There should be pill testing. We should be controlling drugs, not putting control into the hands of criminals. We've never been close to winning the war on drugs, so we should be looking at other options. If you make something illegal, it does not make it unavailable. And Judy says, I don't support drug taking, but I do support drug testing. Our main concern should be the safety of people and identifying harmful chemicals in these pills, and is more likely to put young people off taking illegal drugs, or at least making them think twice before using them, rather than just telling them not to take pills. Safety should be our priority. So give me a call if you have thoughts on this, or even perhaps experience yourself, a child, someone you know. 1300 222 720. Mel has said, if the youth of today, as the youth have done over the past 40 years, if you are prepared to take drugs in any shape or form, they must also be prepared to accept the consequences.